This is such a powerful new moon. I wanted to do a special little overview for all signs using tarot, as well as a bit of an insight into the astrology for each rising or sun sign. I pulled a few little cards to just kind of see what the overview of this time is at a feeling level. The first card that came out is the present card, and that is really talking about the importance of paying attention to what is actually unfolding. We are getting clues all the time at the moment about our destinies, about our forward trajectory, about what's really important to us and what we want to build and what we need to work on, transform, change, and innovate in order to reach those intentions. Paying attention to what is happening here and now, to understanding that it is happening exactly as it's meant to. We're getting exactly what we need in order to get to where we're trying to go, and trusting that is really going to lead us forward in a very powerful way. There is nothing more magic than what is happening right now. It may seem mundane, but it is not. This is a mythical, heroic journey that each of us is on, and that is really emphasized in the next card, which sits in the position of energy and power, and it is the alchemical symbol for common water. And what this makes me think is of the water bearer. It's literally a cup of water. And Aquarius is an air sign, but it is known as the water bearer, based on the mythical figure of Ganymede, who was chosen by Zeus to be the water bearer because he was so special and so beautiful and so unlike others. There was something starry about Ganymede. And that is part of the story and the power of Aquarius, that we're each being asked to live into that Ganymede-like quality which characterizes each of us in a unique way. How are we unique? How can we elevate what makes us? It's special in the sense that we are each adding to the power and the potency of the whole by being true to ourselves. So, and of course, common water also refers to the humble nature of water. Don't underestimate your gifts and your power. Although it may seem ordinary to you, it is really, really powerful. The next card that came out is Saturn, which sits in the position of the inner child, how we see ourselves, the physical world, our relationship to the physical world through our physical bodies. How perfect that it's Saturn, because Saturn is physical reality. It's also interesting that it sits in the place of the identity and the inner child, because we are being asked to do the work now, and this new moon allows us to plant intentions to do that work. All the planets are answering to Saturn almost. So doing the work of being true to ourselves is what this moon is also asking of us. Interestingly, in the position of emotions and the subconscious, relationships, the inner world, our relationship to ourselves, we've pulled the creativity card, the ceramic vessel. And the symbol of this card signifies this idea that creativity comes from nothing. Creativity comes from often a dire or muddy situation. Clay we dig up from dirt, and yet we can make beautiful objects from clay, and these objects give us energy as we make them. Creativity kind of fuels our energetic life, and creativity is exponential. When we make something, it not only serves us, it serves others. So in this emotional realm, in the realm of feeling and relationship to ourselves and others, we're being asked to be creative and to be generative. What can we make from a situation that maybe doesn't look so great? That is the perfect condition for creative activity and for creative connection. And the last card in this general little reading is the balance card, which relates to the sacral chakra, which is the creative chakra again. Creativity at a very intimate and essential level. In the realm of the spirit, this is really talking to me about this need to balance out the work that we're doing to build towards these dreams and intentions, and the need to be creative and liberated and connected to our inner child, that Ganymede shining star of ourself, this dynamic between Uranus and Saturn, which is so interestingly reflected in these cards. So that is the overall reading. Aries and Aries rising. The first card that jumped out for you is the Strength card. And this speaks to me about the importance of trusting oneself. Uranus is transiting your second house, the house of resources, income, work, the revenue from work, as well as self-worth. And to me, this is kind of talking about that Mars energy. Mars is also in Taurus alongside Uranus. And this kind of lion being within us is a very Martian kind of energy. Having said that, this is also the card associated with Leo, which is opposing the new moon and that huge stellium of planets in Aquarius. So there's this kind of need now to be true to who we are, and the more true we can be to who we are, the more gentle we can be about our insecurities, our vulnerabilities, our doubts about ourselves, the more we can employ that Saturnine kind of discipline which she is applying to this wild beast, a gentleness and a discipline that says, okay, just calm down, just chill out, let's just keep going, doing what we're doing, let's not Mars out here and lash out. The more strength and power we're able to generate. The part of ourselves that really doubts that we're worth it, that we have the right to express who we truly are, especially in creative terms, especially in groups, in friendships, in society at large. If we're able to give expression to those parts of ourselves, there will undoubtedly be a victory, because the Six of Wands refers to a kind of battle that we go into, that we come out triumphant, and we are looked up to by those around us who we admire and want to be admired by. That is the 11th house as well, the audience. This is also quite fitting for that Leo Aquarian energy of the audience watching the return from battle, the victory, celebrating the hero. The third card that jumped out is the Two of Cups, which suggests that in this process something very beautiful at an emotional level, at a creative, spiritual and feeling level is being not only generated but activated and multiplied. It's the beginning of a journey that really seems to branch out into new possibilities that are really aiding that sense of a better, more beautiful life. So this is a gorgeous reading. Be careful not to hold back too much. There may be a fear of going too large, or of allowing oneself to be exposed, or to share too much of oneself, to feel that one needs to hold on to the vulnerable parts of oneself because they are vulnerable. It's okay to share. It's actually going to be really powerful to share. So hold your line with gentleness and reach out to those you trust and care about, and share what you're doing and see what comes back. This is a creative and victorious moment, and a very beautiful one. The cards that have come out for you, Aries, are very beautiful. So best of luck with this Lunar New Year and Aquarian moon. Taurus and Taurus rising, you have been through a lot. You have been working so hard. Uranus is in your first house, ruling the self, identity, your relationship to your body, your vitality, your way of being in the world, how you show up. Big change afoot in that area, and innovations and changes. This new moon is happening in your 10th house of career, where you have been working incredibly hard. And the first card that jumped out for you was the Nine of Wands, which suggests a huge project, something that you've been carrying that has taken an enormous amount of work and which is feeling a little bit exhausting. And it suggests that you have a very little bit to go before you reach your goal. And yet it's also really important for you to take care of yourself, to nourish your emotions, your emotional needs. Things may still seem a little bit unclear. Mercury is still retrograde, and it is not entirely clear yet about what it's doing or what it's even creating. But the moon wants you to take that time to reflect and to nourish yourself inwardly. In this little spread, the other card that jumped out was the Emperor. And the Emperor, I came out this way, the Emperor is looking at the moon. So what's happening in this process as this new moon activates your career house is that you are growing towards your power. You are able to take a stronger leadership role. You're able to be autonomous in terms of what you're here to do and what you are bringing in the realm of your career, and how you show up in the world. The power that you have innately is being activated, but it depends on following the clarity of your true feelings. Not that those feelings are going to be entirely clear right now, but listening in to your feelings is hugely important. Also, because at the bottom of the deck we have the High Priestess also looking over at the moon and the Emperor. Now, she represents our intuition, our ability to delve deep into the psyche, the psychic part of ourselves that really understands and apprehends the truth at a crystalline level that is beyond dogma, beyond tradition. It is that intuitive knowing. And she is looking over at the moon, and the moon is looking at her. So there is this very strong need to be listening to intuition, listening to your deep feeling. Even if things are unclear, that is going to become more clear over time. And the Emperor is watching. He is waiting to see what is generated through this creative and intuitive insight. So that is extremely beautiful. And the card underneath the Empress, the High Priestess, is the World card, which suggests that this is coming to a point where you really are able to bring something out into the world and be seen for what you have to offer. All of this hard work will pay off. It's a very exciting time. What is the dream that you want to plant in the realm of career? How do you want to show up? How do you want to express more truly and authentically who you are? Uranus is working on your sense of self and identity. So this is really important. How do you want to show up in the world? Who are you truly? Be you. This is a very exciting time of transformation. Gemini and Gemini rising. This new moon is happening in your 9th house, the house of God, spirituality, of higher consciousness, philosophy, teaching, foreign cultures and travel. And Uranus is sitting in your 12th house, the house of retreat and isolation, of self-undoing potentially. It is in the sign of Taurus, a pretty creative place, a place where you can make beautiful things happen that give value to your life. But there's a need for some innovation here. There needs to be an experience of liberation that's going to allow you to really generate something that is beautiful, meaningful to the world, and that connects you to a higher sense of divinity. The numinous, whether it's mundanely expressed or spiritually expressed in the world, there's something that you can plant here that is going to connect you to your community in a really powerful and kind of numinous way that allows you to give energy and impetus to your creative drives. However, there's a lot of thinking going on that may be throwing you off course at the moment. Mercury is retrograde, so there are doubts and there are possibly insecurities and confusion about what we're really doing and where we're really going. The first card that jumped out for you is the Seven of Swords reversed. The Seven of Swords can talk about a betrayal, but when it's reversed, it might be referring to the ways in which you are sabotaging yourself. The 12th house is the place of self-undoing, so it's where we kind of create the problems in our own lives by refusing to heed the call of the spirit, so to speak. So this new moon that's happening in your house of God and the house of spirituality is really asking you to plant a seed that allows you to grow into your highest potential. How do you want to take this next adventure in your life? You've got the Fool here, the card of adventure and the call and the ability to take a risk. The fifth house for you is Libra, which is ruled by Venus, and Venus is making some very powerful aspects here. And this is about expressing yourself creatively and taking the risk on an adventure, living a life that is rich with pleasure and with play. The Fool is play, it's the child. With the Fool being upside down here, it may suggest that there is a real fear of jumping off the cliff, which is what the Fool is known to do, jump off the cliff in the right ways potentially. Be careful of not jumping off the cliff in the ways that could just cause you harm, self-sabotaging cliff jumping techniques. We want to be jumping off the cliff with wings that are based on a sense of how we connect to divinity, even in the ordinary experiences of our lives, in our relationships with others, that we're connecting with people who remind us of our higher mind, who remind us of our higher potential and of our connection to a bigger cosmos in which everything is animate and alive and meaningful. These kinds of ideas are the truth that you are wanting to master here. There's something that is unclear at that level of ideas. The swords are related to the air signs, Gemini, Aquarius, and Libra. And all three of those signs are, quite prominent for you at the moment. So there's an unsureness about how those thoughts are playing out for you at the moment. So get really clear about your intentions as much as you possibly can, thinking about what you want and what you love. Write them down. Use that mercurial energy, that reflective, reconsidering, reimagining, revising energy of Mercury retrograde to consider what is most important to you. The swords represent truth. They represent ideas. They represent knowledge, but most importantly, they represent the truth, especially when you've got the king here. The king represents the mastery of truth and communication and the ability to kind of wield knowledge and the truth in a powerful way. You may be doubting that you know what to do or that you know what the truth of the situation is, and that may well be true right now because Mercury is retrograde, and the card that you've got at the bottom of the deck is the Knight of Swords. The Knight of Swords can be prone to rushing in a very Martian way, rushing in and taking action on emotionally charged scenarios that are not as well aligned with the truth as the king, because the king is reversed here. It's saying take some time to reflect, take some time to go into that spiritual zone, the house of God, and plant your magical intentions. Things will come clear, you will be able to act, and you will create something very, very powerful from this experience over the next 18 months. Trust that and take time now to really consider. Be gentle with your thoughts. They could be running a little bit rife right now, and let yourself have an adventure. You may be feeling some of the pain of old betrayals. The Seven of Swords can represent, betrayal by another. This is reversed, so it's saying that this is not right now, but it is relating to your 12th house, which is hidden enemies. So there can be this feeling of where the wrongs of the past are interfering with your ability to grow, your ability to take risks. The king wants you to mature and wants you to see the truth for what it is, and that requires that 12th house reflection, isolation and retreat, and the trust in God, who is whatever God is, looking over you with your new moon planted in that house so powerfully. Jupiter and Venus conjunct. Trust what it is you're trying to grow. Cancer and Cancer rising. This new moon is happening in your 8th house. That is a really, really powerful house. It's the house of death, transformation, and regeneration, but it's also about your power. It's about what you are going to transform through this next 18 months in order to live into your power. And that is really amplified by these cards. The first card that jumped out for you was the Fool, which also jumped out for Gemini, but this time it's upright, which is saying you are ready to heed the call. You know what you want to transform. You know where you need to take your power. You're not exactly sure how yet. There's still a process that's unfolding. Judgment is here. It is on its way, and yet there is a process still through which this transformation is being made. As we know, this is going to be a cycle that unfolds over the next 18 months. The second card that jumped out is the Three of Wands, which promises the return of those intentions that we have set out into the world, the work that we have done to create a new possibility, and yet there's patience required because the ships have not yet come to shore. We must stand on the cliff and watch them slowly approach. Therefore, it is really important to think about what it is that you're wanting to create, particularly in social contexts, in relation to friends and networks and communities, and what your power is asking you to contribute to the world. This transformation that's happening in your 8th house with the planting of this new moon, with Venus and Jupiter conjunct there at the same moment that the moon is new, suggests there's an enormous potential for transformation here, and that does have something to do with a need for liberation, innovation, and change in the way that you relate to people through a sense of self-worth, perhaps that maybe needs to be re-empowered. It may also suggest the card at the bottom of the deck is the Five of Swords, which talks about the dangers of getting involved in vying competitions for power. You will win if you want to play that way. However, the win is short-lived. The Five of Swords says that it is better to step away from a conflict, even if you are right, if it's going to create a conflict, because it will end up backfiring on you. So this dynamic that is being transformed in the context of social groups and friendships and networks and society, and how you make a living somehow through those dynamics, because Taurus is in your 11th house. It's how we make a living. It's our resources. It's connections to our social networks. So there may be a moment in which that feeling of lack of power, lack of self-worth can make us a little bit competitive, or a bit more fight than is going to be good for us. So Judgment reversed is kind of like this 8th house energy. It is profoundly transformative and disruptive. It involves a death and then a rebirth. Of course, this seed is being planted in your 8th house, so it's powerful, but it's going to take some time to unfold. You want to be planting what it is that you dream for yourself, for your self-worth. How do you want to show up in the world? And how do you want to inhabit your power? And what is the adventure you want to take yourself on in this regard? Leo and Leo rising, this new moon is happening in your 7th house of relationships. So the seeds you're planting here are really building some new possibility in the realm of your relationships, romantic and otherwise. The first card that jumped out for you was the Emperor. Uranus is also in your 10th house. So the square between Saturn and Uranus is happening between your relationships and your career. There's a need to take your power, to be in your autonomy. And the Emperor is looking over at the bottom of the deck, looking at the Devil, which is asking us, especially with Uranus there, where am I perhaps not free to be in my power? Where am I being held back? The Devil represents the places where we're in some kind of bondage to an idea or a situation or a belief or a relationship. For some of you, it may actually be about the need to create liberation in a relationship. You have the Two of Pentacles, which talks about the need for a kind of balancing and a juggling that can be emotional in nature. It could be the need to balance the demands of relationship and career. It could also refer to the need to balance the emotional experiences that one is undergoing in the context of relationships, and the need to be really authentically and truthfully oneself, and that can be really challenging. And yet with this new moon and all of this benefic energy really supporting and enhancing the power of this new moon to plant intentions, being true to yourself is really going to power your journey forward. Don't be afraid to express who you are in the context of relationships. That is going to generate more power for you in your career. Here we have the Emperor, and the third card that jumped out is the Ace of Pentacles. which is saying there is abundance to come here. Your 10th house is in Taurus, and that is a sign of abundance. And the Ace of Pentacles represents a brand new beginning, the new moon. It will take time to grow. The Pentacles are the slowest moving of all of the suits. They are slow growth. They are earth. Taurus is earth. But there is no doubt that there is this new opportunity that really is connected to your power, your authority, your leadership, that this new moon is really going to instigate for you. And that's very exciting. So plant some intentions in relation to ideas of freedom in relationship, authenticity in relationship, how you can serve the people that you love by being true to yourself. Where do you need to reflect on the nature of your relationships or of specific relationships in order to get back into balance? Do your dance, be yourself. Trust that your power is going to come to fruition, to fullness, in the fullness of time. Beautiful, Leo. Virgo and Virgo rising. This new moon is happening in your 6th house of work, everyday activities, daily routines, and health. In traditional astrology, it was really the house of illness and of servitude. So the things that we're looking at in terms of the 6th house now are how to transform experiences of work and ill health into experiences of vitality and of work that is in service of something that we're passionate about, so that the experience of working is one that is true to us and liberating to us. And there's definitely the power to do this because Uranus is in your 9th house. Uranus is the planet of liberation, innovation, and the 9th house is a highly spiritual house and philosophical house and higher thinking. It's about adventurous, long-term adventures. And the cards that came out for you are the 7 of Wands, which suggests that one may feel a little bit beleaguered by burdens of work or dynamics in which there may be a feeling of being confronted or of being betrayed or let down. The 7 of Swords is on the bottom of the deck, and that can often relate to feelings of betrayal. But with the 7 of Wands, although we feel a little bit exhausted and a little bit on the back foot, the 7 of Wands nonetheless suggests that we actually have more power than we think. We have the upper hand. The work that we're doing is going to pay off. And that really shows up in the next card, which is the 8 of Pentacles. And the 8 of Pentacles talks about, again, having to kind of work really hard, but starting at the beginning and in the spirit of an apprentice who absolutely adores their work, and his success is guaranteed. So there's this feeling of finding delight and pleasure in work by really connecting to what is beautiful to you, meaningful to you, that aligns with your higher values and ethics, your philosophy about life. The next 2 cards that came out are the Page of Cups overlooking the 6 of Cups, and that is really beautiful because that to me is suggesting that the Page is bringing you messages of creativity, intuition, beauty, emotional richness that are connected to some kind of spirit that you felt as a child, a gift that you are able to bring into your work somehow that makes you feel more connected to the divine in the everyday, or literally to some kind of spiritual energy, or to ideas that help to raise your consciousness, that make you feel connected to higher ideals. Listening to the voice of intuition, the childlike voice of intuition. The Page is the child, the young man, and he's bringing news that's poetic, that's beautiful, that's romantic, that wants you to remember that magic, that energy that you were able to harness as a child and somehow be able to bring into the dynamic relationship between what you do for work and how you relate to your vitality, your body and your health in order to create more liberation. Libra and Libra rising, this new moon is happening in your 5th house. I'm quite envious. How exciting. The house of pleasure, play, creativity, the artist, children. Traditionally, it is the house of good fortune. You have this packed stellium in that magical house of good fortune and creativity. Very, very exciting. However, you do have Uranus in the 8th house, and that makes me wonder whether you may have been experiencing a feeling that you don't have the right to experience the kind of pleasure and joy and creative expression that you deserve to be able to enjoy. The first card that came out for you, though, is the 10 of Pentacles, and that says, this is your right. You will achieve this incredible sense of abundance and fortune and happiness. You are required to be really true to yourself creatively in order to serve the greater good. And this is showing that you most definitely can. You have a power to do so, and the outcome will be very, very powerful. Also, because the next card is the Ace of Wands, which is so fitting for this new moon. It's really saying there is this brand new beginning, an incredibly inspiring, creative beginning, the seed of something that is going to grow into an amazing opportunity to express yourself and to play and to have fun. It may also relate to a new beginning with your children. Some kind of opportunity for creative connection. The next card that came out is the Knight of Swords, which is also suggesting to me that there may be this kind of a rushed tendency to believe that it's not possible, but there may be something holding you back because Uranus and Mars are in your 8th house, which is the house of death, regeneration, transformation, power dynamics, power struggles, beliefs in lack of power, kind of karmic entanglements with others. And so because this is squaring the house of children, it may relate to relationships between parents and children where there's kind of doubt and a fear about the future might be being exerted in the realm of pleasure and play and happiness. This Knight of Swords can be a little bit too rash in jumping into the attack or to defend an idea that maybe is not quite ready to be understood yet. There's this need to take things slow, to plant some ideas that will allow you to flourish creatively and in terms of a beautiful, pleasurable life. At the bottom of the deck, we have the Four of Pentacles, which is talking about the tendency to hold back out of fear of loss, of losing what we have. And certainly the 8th house is about loss. It's about where we have no control over the things that are going to leave us in this life. We have no power to change the events that are fated in our lives. And that can make us nervous and withholding because we're afraid of losing more. That's something to be really careful of. It's definitely important to hold on to the truth of who you are, to not let that be destroyed. And yet there's also a need to open up, let go, and perhaps find some kind of creative way of sharing these experiences, these 8th house experiences that are asking you to transform. And that transformation is undeniably going to fuel your creativity and your good fortune in life. So don't be afraid. Don't be afraid of what is scary and is asking you to change, is asking something to be removed from your life. It is for your magical good. Really trust it. Don't be afraid. Don't hold back on the transformation, Libra and Libra rising. This is really powerful, and what an amazing house to have so stacked with that Aquarian stellium. The potential for innovation creatively is, and connection, the pleasure of connections with friends and groups is really pronounced. So don't hold back. Scorpio and Scorpio rising, this new moon is happening in your 4th house of family and the home, with Uranus in your 7th house of relationships. This is an interesting dynamic here, a very powerful one that suggests that there is really a new seed being planted in the dynamic of your home and of your family relationships, and that your relationships beyond family are really going to be liberated through the work that you do in the context of home and family. The first card that came out for you is the Four of Cups, which talks about the need to be careful about rejecting offers of plenitude, things that come to you in your life that you may refuse could be holding you back from being able to experience true abundance in your relationships, true, glorious, liberating love. There's something that you're refusing to take on, perhaps, something that you don't want to accommodate in your life, some offer from within a relationship that you don't want to know about, perhaps. The next card that comes out is the Six of Pentacles, and this also talks about this kind of need for exchange. With Aquarius in the fourth house, it talks about this, the importance of balance between serving oneself and serving others, the greater good of the family. And the Six of Pentacles is really about this exchange, the balance of what we have with what we can give, and making sure that if we are blessed, that we share our blessings, and that really enhances the power and the potential within our own abundance. So in family context, there's this need to kind of give and take. Where is the give and take? What do we want to build more into that area of our lives? Where do we want more of this sense of generosity, a sense of being cared for, a sense of being able to care for others? And what really needs to change in order for there to be more liberation in our relationships? The next card that came out is the Ace of Wands, which is really beautiful, which is suggesting that there is this creative possibility that is really at the heart of this innovative change. You know, Taurus rules your seventh house, and Uranus is a radical transformer and innovator. It wants to create new possibilities. What are the new possibilities you want to create in the context of relationships and in the context of family? You want to be mindful of where you're holding back, and also of where that kind of balance in your life may be out of whack and may be causing you discomfort, mental and emotional dis-ease. The Temperance card asks us to find a space of healing and a sense of balance in our lives. It's this alchemical kind of process of finding what works in a peaceful way and of being open to moderation. So in that family context, it's, you know, the give and take, the making sure that there is an equality of interactions and a generosity to both self and others. There's a need for a shift in perception, perhaps, with the Hangman right underneath. So there's this big transformation, this big change happening, which is going to affect your entire world of relationships, and that is immensely exciting and inspiring. Sagittarius and Sagittarius rising, you have a beautiful spread. Your new moon is happening in the third house, traditionally known as the house of the goddess of the moon. And one of the cards that has come out in your reading is the moon, with the Two of Cups in the center and the Knight of Coins of Pentacles on the other side. And you can see they're both looking at these Two of Cups, these beautiful Two of Cups in the center of this reading. The new moon is occurring in your third house of communication, neighbors, siblings, how you interact with your immediate environment, your neighborhood, for example. And this is really saying, okay, there's this new possibility to be able to create an extremely beautiful and rich day-to-day life. Uranus is sitting in your sixth house of work and health, and that is in the sign of Taurus, and the Knight of Coins is very Taurian. The Knight of Pentacles is the slowest moving of all the knights. What he grows takes a long time to develop, but its results, its benefits are long lasting, much longer lasting than the fruits of the efforts of the other knights. So that is a very Taurian thing. He's looking at these two cups though, as is the moon. And so there's this kind of collaboration between this emotional, spiritual understanding, this relationship to earth, in terms of how you can build more beautiful relationships that are supportive of a beautiful life and of an experience in work and health which is enriching and gorgeous, that may have felt like really, really hard work. This moon is asking you to consider what you might need to innovate, what seeds you might need to plant in order to be able to communicate more authentically, in order to be able to connect with your peers and your neighbours, your siblings, your friends and colleagues in a way that helps you to enrich the potential of that beautiful life. And the importance of following your intuition, of following your feeling. The cups are about feeling. The Two of Cups traditionally represents a beautiful connection, a love connection, this kind of joyous celebration of people meeting. And with the moon looking at these cups, there may be this question of what is it that you need to innovate? What is it that you need to plant? What seeds? What might you need to communicate, and where do you need to work in that area of communication? And the card at the bottom of the deck is the Four of Swords, which talks about the need to rest if you are depleted, with the sixth house being so dynamically activated by Uranus and Mars. You just want to move forward, and Taurus is better at going slow. You may need to take some time to rest and reflect. In that house of the goddess of the moon, reflect on what your feelings are telling you are important. They will help to guide you to the directions that you need to transform, the things that you need to innovate, and the seeds that you need to plant in order to generate this beautiful, gorgeous life. This moon is also really empowered by your ruler, Jupiter. So dream big, Sagittarius, about what you're wanting to create in the next 18 months in the area of communication and work. Capricorn and Capricorn rising, this new moon is happening in your second house. Resources, income, self-worth, what you value and what you hold dear and important. The cards that came out for you are, again, really interesting. We have so many characters appearing in today's cards. We have the King of Cups, the Page of Swords, and the Hermit. And the King and the Hermit are looking at each other. It's like they're two older guys who are kind of sharing a little bit of a moment in recognition of this young energy of the Page of Swords, who's idealistic, who is kind of looking at the ground, looking at the pathway forward, trying to work out where that is. He is a young who is following his ideals of truth and justice, and yet he's still working out his way. The King of Cups suggests that there's this need now to really feel into one's intuitions, and the Hermit is asking you to retreat really into a self-reflective space where you're able to feel what it is that you want to fight for. There is a sense of wariness about taking risks. You have Uranus and Mars in your fifth house, and there can be a tendency to jump in and take risks. Both of those planets want to move really fast. And of course, swords are fast-moving energy. But these two older gentlemen are both saying, slow down, consider those things, and let's reflect on them in a more emotionally mature way. We also have Temperance overlooking this trio, and she is also asking for this kind of balance. The second house is being so powerfully activated for you, and there may be a need to find some healing in terms of that self-worth. To express yourself is to trust yourself. And the Hermit is saying, look within, hold up that light, plant that seed. What is it that you are wanting to grow here? And the King of Cups is also slightly amused. There is a playful, creative energy about him. Look at that hat. So that is very fifth house. Don't make it all about the hard work. and allow it to be healing of self-worth, because that is really such a powerful key here in terms of being able to generate more powerfully the resources that you want to create from the source of your creativity. What is your truth? How can you express it creatively, authentically, being truly yourself in such a way that you are able to generate the resources you need through that self-expression? Aquarius and Aquarius rising, this new moon is happening in your first house of the self, of your vitality, your personality, your identity, how you appear in the world, your instinctive responses to things. This is really huge. What seeds do you want to plant in terms of your relationship to yourself, your relationship with the world? This is really immense. It's also really powerfully connected to your relationship to family and to home, which is where you have Uranus and Mars in the fourth house. What I'm seeing here with your cards, the first card that came out is the World, which is saying that there is this process of growth occurring in your relationship to yourself, which is allowing you to step out and shine in the world, to be who you are, and to do what you do in such a way that can actually make a difference in the world. There's a shining moment, a Ganymede moment, where you can really be the glorious star in your own life. That's the possibility here. Of course, these things are going to unfold slowly over the next 18 months, the full potential of these seeds that we're planting, but this is the possibility here. So what ideas do you want to bring into your relationship to yourself that are going to allow you to step out and be seen? The World is also a completion card, so it really suggests the conclusion of a long period of time in which the work has been done that allows you to step up onto that platform. The next card that came out is also the King of Cups. These cards are really wanting to reappear again for many of these different signs. The King of Cups here is looking over the Nine of Wands, which is that moment in the creative journey when we feel overwhelmed by the burden of what we have to do. And this feels like it may be, related to those changes that we know are still required in relation to ourselves, in relation to becoming who we want to be, that it feels exhausting, a little bit insurmountable. The King of Wands is looking over this though and saying, it's okay, don't lose faith. Don't lose faith. You're so close to the end. And then look who's on the bottom of the deck, the 10 of Wands. And the King is looking over that and saying, I know this feels exhausting, but do not lose faith. There is this really powerful ending and beginning which is being instigated right now. And it does have something to do with needing to transform some area of life in relation to family and home, to innovate. What needs to be radically shifted or reimagined in some innovative new way in terms of family relationships, how we are at home, our security, safety, and ability to experience a beautiful life. Mars is wanting us to take action there, and Uranus is wanting us to change and to energize with some electrical shifts in the dynamics. And this is really fueling your path forward, Aquarius. It is really fueling your potential to live into who you were meant to be in this life, to be able to star on the stage of your own life. Any challenges and tensions that you experience that are going to allow you to really step up and to shine. Pisces and Pisces rising, your new moon is happening in the 12th house. Another very powerful house, because it definitely takes you into a place of retreat, which can be full of meaningful reflection and magic, and it's the place of gestation. It's the place where we are grown inside the womb and where things are transmuted, our karma is transmuted. So there's this possibility to grow something in the 12th house with the planting of this seed that is going to allow a new possibility to be born at a much larger scale. And you have Uranus in the 3rd house, which rules communication, siblings, neighbours, the activities in one's neighbourhood. The first card that came out is the Pope, the Hierophant. and he is wanting us to kind of follow tradition, to listen to the wisdom that's been handed down to us, that it can be very helpful to us in this particular transition. And that makes sense with so many planets in the 12th house, which is also known in ancient astrology as the house of self-undoing. So it kind of asks us to consider where we might sabotage ourselves and where some kind of spiritual practice that connects us to ancient wisdom that can allow us to follow the straight path, the path that leads us to unfold into ourselves truly and authentically, that will be really powerful. So any kind of spiritual practice which is established over millennia perhaps, or that's been tried and tested, that you know that you can turn to for guidance or inspiration, and also for grounding, because in that third house, which is where you have Uranus and Mars, there may be this tendency to kind of, it rules communication, so this tendency to sort of fly off a little bit, to react verbally in ways that can be cutting or damaging or rebellious in a self-undoing way. So it's going to be really helpful to follow practices and traditions that are spiritual in nature, that help to connect you to a solid means of moving forward through some challenges that may appear. And there's definite benefits because you've got the Nine of Cups, which suggests that what you're growing here is this incredible abundance. This is the card of the entrepreneur, of the successful businesswoman who makes something from nothing. And that 12th house energy is really generating a whole new paradigm. And with Uranus and Mars in the third house in Taurus, there's this desire to create a new dynamic of communication that is more creative and allows you to be solidly positioned in context of your peers, of your colleagues, of your siblings, how you relate to others in your day-to-day life. There may be a need to heal something in that area. Something may need to be shifted. There may have been an experience that's happened with colleagues or siblings or even neighbours where there's this feeling of being badly done by, of being unfairly done by, and the potential to lash out perhaps could be more destructive. The Knight of Wands is an incredibly inspiring energy, inspiring and inspired youthful energy who is really compelling, and people want to follow him, and he's excited to take on new projects at a whim. He is looking forward and the Pope is looking at him, which suggests that he brings a lot of potential for some magnificent new creative projects and growth through communication, through the use of your creative gifts. And yet there's also the need to be mindful of that wise voice that comes when you retreat into self-reflection. That's the 12th house, self-reflection. So you may want to be practicing some, spiritual practices that you know can hold you onto a good solid path, or you may just want to take some time to kind of cloister in your own company. The Pope is talking about kind of the retreat within a confined space that provides some sort of security, of being able to follow a pattern. And that can be very helpful. Of course, Aquarius does still deal with structures. They're less hierarchical than this kind, but it may provide a useful guide that can help you see things a little bit clearly over time. There may be still something that's quite hidden with Mercury retrograde and all of these planets happening in your 12th house of hidden things. Things will evolve slowly, but definitely be mindful of fiery, reactive communication or dynamics with the people close to you in close proximity in your life. Do some meditation, do some journaling, whatever feels spiritually nurturing and nourishing and helping you to grow through this process of gestation. What do you want to grow creatively? The 12th house, I do feel, is a very creative house because it's where you retreat. And Uranus, the planet of innovation and creativity, is in your 3rd house of communication. Is there something you want to write? Is there something you want to create that is going to require your Venusian sense of beauty and your ability to communicate that in some way? I hope this new moon is a really magical feeling one that initiates a very exciting 18 months in all our lives. I trust that what we are going to create and manifest in this time is going to be really pretty extraordinary. And we certainly have good fortune pushing us onward here. I hope you're feeling hopeful despite the chaos that is still unfolding in the world and our lives in various ways. It is taking us somewhere really inspiring, I think. We are building, we are dreaming a better world. Sending you all so much love and gratitude for your company, and I will see you soon. Bye.